Hey, gang, this is the story, the true story of how a rock and roll Hall of Famer played guitar on my couch. But we have to go back before that. So I went to California for a year to make a movie. I had bought the rights to a movie and got involved with some actor friends of mine. And we went on this journey trying to get this movie made. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, I came back to New York City a year later, hat in hand. I had to pawn a guitar in LA to have enough money to get back to New York. I had been dating a girl for 3 years. We were living together, in fact, before I left for LA. And I was like really eager to get back. I got back and found out that she was cheating on me and she was with another guy, and the guy she eventually married. So good for them. And I was, heartbroken, but also homeless at the same time. So I was like, wow, the last year has been insane. So my buddy Scott Kempner of the Del Lords and the Dictators took me in. He needed a roommate anyway. He needed help with the rent. So I moved down to the East Village to live with Scott. And that's where I wrote all the songs for my first album and some for the second album. And shortly thereafter, met my wife. But one night, Scott gets a call, and it's sort of a familiar voice on the answering machine. It's like, yo, this is Dion, and I got this ting, and, so I'm like writing it down, and and Scott was in the shower, so he comes out, he's like, I heard the phone ring. I'm like, yeah, it's this guy, Dion. I don't know, he's from Florida. And Scott looks at the number, he goes, dude, that's the Dion. And I'm like, the Dion? He's like, yeah, the Dion. Of course, I knew who Dion was. I'm half Italian. So I was like, Dion, the Wanderer, Runaround Sue. So fast forward, Dion wanted to meet us because he wanted some new songs. He wanted a new sound, right? And which they eventually did explore somewhat, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So he says, listen, I'm playing this supper club in Jersey. He was playing the oldies circuit at the time, which may be why he wanted a new sound. And he's like, I'm playing this supper club in Jersey. If you can come out there, I'd love to meet you. So we're like, it's Dion, of course we're going to out there. So I rented a rental-car, and he had his girlfriend at the time, and I had just met my wife. I think we were dating for like a month at the time. And we drove out to Jersey. I can't remember how far into Jersey, maybe like 45 minutes or an hour into Jersey, to this supper club. And it was, a supper club, like, the round bucket, seats in the stage all the way, low ceiling theater. Anyway, it was insane. But he played through all the hits and he sounded amazing. He sounded, he played in all the original keys. The band was pretty good. I didn't think there was a problem with them. They were just, going through the motions, playing the hits, and, but he was amazing. So after the show, we went backstage. And he's like, yeah, it's good to meet you guys. How's it going? And Scott goes, hey, Bruce is playing down the shore tonight. It's like a secret, unannounced show with Joe Grishecki of, from Pittsburgh. And he's like, and Frank from the Del Lords is playing drums with him. And Dion's like, you could see like the motor going. He's like, how far is it? And Scott's like, I don't know, another hour. Of course, it was an hour and a half to the shore from where we were. So Dion's like, yeah, let's go. And now, you got to understand, it's like 12:30 in the morning at this point, when we hijack him into our rental car to go drive into the wilds of Jersey where we don't know where we're going. And this is before GPS and cell phones, So his manager starts losing his bloody mind. He's like, wait, where are you going? Hold on, we got a gig the next day, and he's got to be back at the bus. And we're like, don't worry, we'll get him there. And Dion, to his credit, was like, yeah, don't worry, well, I'll be there. So we get into the rental car, and sure enough, it's an hour and a half down to the Jersey Shore. we finally get down to this place called Mars, and there's a bootleg out of it called Mars Stars Guitars or something like that. I saw it once. Someone might have given me a copy. I might have the CD somewhere. Haven't unpacked the CDs yet from Nashville. Anyway, so we walk in the club, and just about like, they're finishing up, right? At this point, it's like 2:30 in the morning, 2:30. And, they're almost done. And the club owner sees Dion and recognizes him and goes, "Come on, let's go." So he rushes us backstage, and we go backstage. Now I'm standing in the door to the stage, and Dion's right next to me, and then Scott and our gals. And Bruce comes off the stage and he goes, "Hey, I hear Dion's here." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's right there." And he's like, "Come on." And well, next thing you know, everybody's on stage. And the coolest part of this is they start playing The Wanderer, the dun, 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 dun. And there were a lot of college students, in the crowd. And I guess Dion, he's like 90 now. So he was like in his 60s, he was like early 60s, I guess. So as he's like, "Well, I'm the type of guy," there was this girl in the front row who went, "Oh, it's that guy." Because, he sounded exactly like that guy because he was that guy. So played a few songs. Place went berserk. It was an amazing night. We got out of there at like 6 a.m., took Dion back to his hotel at that point, really early in the morning, and all was cool. About a year later, I get a call from Dion. I stayed in touch with him, and he's like, "Hey, I'm staying right down." I was living in New York City with my wife at that time. We had our own apartment. And he's like, "I'm staying at a hotel right down the street from you. I need a guitar." I'm like, "Come over." He comes over, and we sat on my couch for an hour or so, just playing, jamming. Worked on a couple of tunes because, that was how I got my start, was trying to write songs for him. And then, eventually had my own material and put out my first album and so on. So we sat there and played. And after a while, maybe an hour and a half, he's like, "I got this ting." Where he was doing the soundtrack for Dirty Dancing 2 or something, as I remember. He's like, "Can I borrow this guitar or a guitar to take with me for a few days while I'm here in New York, and I'll bring it back?" And I was like, "Of course you can." So he took the guitar, and that's the guitar he used to record his part in that soundtrack. I don't know if it ever came out or what happened with that. I never saw that film, so I don't know. But he did contribute to some soundtrack that was supposed to be for Dirty Dancing 2, and he used my Ted Thompson. It was a Canadian luthier at the time who I haven't seen at all since, but I had just bought it like a year previous. That's the guitar that Dion took and used on that session and used for the next 3 days, and then brought it back, and we played a little bit more. So that's how I met Dion, magical as it is. And, I haven't talked to him in a little while. Scott's passed away now for the last couple of years, tragically. But Dion is still out there, probably singing in the original keys, because he's not just an original, he's amazing. Amazing. Like, we were just completely blown away by how incredible and deep his talent is. Like, you don't know sometimes when you meet these legends, and then when you're like face to face with them, you're like, now I know why they're a legend. So Dion is a legend, and that's the story of meeting Dion and how he ended up playing on our couch in Hell's Kitchen, New York City. All right, take care, y'all.